Well, folks, very often in these videos, my producers force me to react to a thing that I absolutely hate.
What? Bull. No reward is worth this. Oh no.
Today we're going to do something different. I'm going to talk about 6 books that I absolutely love. This video is sponsored by my friends over at Birch Gold Group. Number 1, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Now, most people recommend that you read War and Peace by Tolstoy, but unless you're really interested in the movement of troops during the war between Napoleon Bonaparte and the Russian army, you're probably not going to love that part of the book. Anna Karenina is a better book. Anna Karenina follows the story of Anna Karenina, who of course is married and decides to engage because she's essentially bored and doesn't find a lot of meaning in life, in an affair with a sort of no-good count named Vronsky. That is one plot line. The other plot line follows a landowner named Konstantin Levin, who is trying to find a wife, trying to get married. He's in love with a girl named Kitty, and it's about his own spiritual journey trying to find meaning in life. The book is, of course, beautifully written. The plot is compelling. The characterization, I think this is the best characterization that Tolstoy does in any of his novels. So Dostoevsky is more famous than Tolstoy for delving into sort of the human mind and soul. Dostoevsky is significantly less optimistic than Tolstoy is. We'll get to Dostoevsky in a moment. But the investigation, particularly of how Levin thinks, is truly amazing. And the sort of religious awakening in which Levin engages near the end of the novel is unbelievably inspiring and wonderful. The opening line is, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." It's super, super famous opening line. Actually, you'll find that many of the books on my list here have very, very famous opening lines. But the book, as an exploration of what motivates people spiritually, about the need for something beyond mere material comfort, is quite beautiful. And so everyone knows the story of what happens to Anna. Spoiler alert, she throws herself in front of a train, but that's not really what the book is about. The book is really about what happens when, on the one hand, you abandon things that ought to mean something in your life, as Anna abandons her husband and her children in favor of sort of a fleeting hedonistic pleasure and the predictable results of that. And on the other hand, what happens when you actually search for meaning, and what you find at the end of that road is love of God and love of wife and love of family. All right, book number 2 is by Fyodor Dostoevsky, of course, The Brothers Karamasov. Now, I had a choice here. I had to go with either Crime and Punishment or Brothers Karamasov. I think that Crime and Punishment is more readable. It is an amazing piece of writing. I mean, just the delving into the mind of the main character in Crime and Punishment is incredible, but Brothers Karamasov is justly more famous. It has some digressions that in and of themselves are unbelievably famous. The Great Inquisitor chapter from The Brothers Karamasov, it's its own sort of novel within the novel about Jesus Christ coming back to earth and then being interrogated by a Spanish inquisitor and the debate between government power and spiritual power, and it's amazing. The book is, again, rooted in a plot line around a murder. The father of a brood is murdered, and it's not clear until near the end of the book who exactly did the murder. His name is Fyodor. He has 3 legitimate sons, Dmitri, Ivan, and Alyosha, and they all have wildly different characters. Dmitri is passionate and he's impulsive, and he is embroiled in this terrible dispute with his father over inheritance, and also they are both in love with the same woman. Meanwhile, Ivan, who's intellectually skeptical, he is the one who's constantly struggling with the meaning of life, and Alyosha is the spiritual character who provides the redemption at the end of the story. And once again, Dostoevsky is explaining the conflict between faith and reason, between nihilism and meaning, and Dostoevsky does that better than anyone. Now, the greatest novels always take on big issues. In fact, it's hard for me to think of a novel that I think is truly meaningful that doesn't include questions about God. This is something that I think secular atheists don't understand. Religious people are constantly thinking about things like the injustice of the universe and why bad things happen to good people. And so when secular people say to religious people, well, God doesn't exist because bad things happen to good people, it's like, well, we've been dealing with this particular dilemma for literally all of human history, and it's that struggle that characterizes the religious struggle of people. Abandoning that struggle by saying life is meaningless leads you to nihilism and down dark paths, which is one of Dostoevsky's main points in virtually all of his writings. But it's those struggles that are being taken on by people ranging from Tolstoy to Dostoevsky. There's also themes of moral responsibility. Did the father deserve it? Who actually committed the murder? It turns out it was none of the brothers. Again, it's an amazing piece of writing. Again, these are books that require time. Anna Karenina is probably 800 pages long. Brothers Karamasov is, if anything, a little bit longer. So devote the time to actually read them through, and you will get a lot of benefit from it. We'll get to more of this in a moment. First, this July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. BRICS is a bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, South Africa. They're meeting with the goal of displacing the US dollar as the global reserve currency. They are calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, global demand for US dollars is going to decrease. That brings down the value of dollars in your savings. That's happening right now. De-dollarization is an ongoing process. While that transition is not going to happen overnight, the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when BRICS' objectives move decisively from theoretical possibility toward reality. Learn if diversifying your savings into gold, the way I did, is right for you. Diversification is just a smart strategy in uncertain economic times. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting my name, Ben, to 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and that Rio Reset. Text Ben to 989898 today. Okay, to America for Moby Dick by Herman Melville. So if you want like my full take on Moby Dick, when we did Ben's book club a couple of years ago, I actually did a full episode on Moby Dick. It's an amazing piece of work. It's an attempt to sort of recreate many elements of the Bible in the guise of a whaling story. So the basic setup is that Ahab is a captain who has been gravely injured by the white whale, and he decides that he is going to go after this white whale with everything that he has to the point of death and beyond. And that's because he sees the white whale as a representation of God's injustice in the universe. The white whale injured him, and he says that he wants to stab through the pasteboard mask to get at the meaning of life and to get at God. Again, you can see that this theme is being taken on by pretty much all great literature. This story, of course, has one of the great opening lines of all time, "Call me Ishmael." Ishmael is the main character of the story. But the real story is all circulating around Ahab and his dictatorial running of the Pequod, which is a whaling ship out of New Bedford. People say that the whaling sections are too much. I get it. There's a lot of whaling. If you don't know much about whaling, then you will after you read this book. I think one way to think of that is that it's sort of the Leviticus section of the attempted Bible that Moby Dick actually is. There are themes ranging from the distinction between Western civilization and barbarism to the mistakes that can be made by those who attempt to stay loyal. Fate versus free will. Is Ahab designed for death, essentially? And there's no more compelling character in literature than Ahab. He has the same sort of compelling drive as Satan does in Milton's Paradise Lost. This sort of drive to do something of import, even if it's a bad thing. And that is a great temptation in human nature, is to just go ahead and do bad things because you want to feel important or because you feel it's important to you, and knock aside all of the moral obstacles to doing the thing. And there's something that thrills to that in human nature. But I think one of the themes of Moby Dick is very, very bad idea. On to Every Man Dies Alone. So this is a much less well-known book. The first three books that I've cited are on all the great literature lists. Every Man Dies Alone. My father actually found this at a bookstore in New York. He was just browsing and he saw it, picked it up, read it, loved it, and gave it to me. And I similarly love this book. Every Man Dies Alone, written by Hans Fallada during World War II. And it's the story of a working class couple named Otto and Anna Quengle. They made a movie out of this. This working class couple has a son who is a member of the German army during World War II, and he's killed in battle. And they decide that they're going to lead resistance against Hitler. Not through violent means, they're going to spread pamphlets all around the city. It's sort of a quixotic attempt to drum up an opposition to Hitler in Nazi Germany. And for 2 years, they just figure out ways to distribute these pamphlets just by leaving them in random places. And most of the pamphlets end up being uncovered by the police officer, Inspector Escherich. And there's sort of a great battle that goes on in his own mind as to whether he should actually find them, prosecute them, and then execute them. And it's a story of how their relationship, which had largely been broken, is brought together by a common cause. It's a beautifully written book. And when I say beautifully written, I mean absolutely crystal clear. One of the things that I do not like in a lot of writing is when you get flowery pages filled with adjectives. This is really cut to the bone writing, which I enjoy, because I just want to get to the meat of the matter. That's obviously not the case so much with something like Moby Dick, but Every Man Dies Alone is incredibly compelling, really well written. The book is just an amazing book. It's truly a great book. Alrighty, back to Russia for a moment. Another World War II novel. I've mentioned it on the show before, Vasily Grossman's Life and Fate. So this was basically suppressed by the Soviet Union because it equated the barbarism of the Soviet Union with the barbarism of the Nazis. And it's essentially a massive study of World War II from multiple perspectives, including German soldiers, Jews who are being put into the gas chambers. There's an entire section of the novel in which a Jewish woman and a small girl are taken from a town. It just traces their pathway all the way into the gas chamber, to Soviet soldiers who are fighting on the front lines. And it's an amazing expose of everything that was going on in the Soviet Union. And the novel was first published in 1980 in the West. So it's first written in 1960. It didn't come out until 1980. And the reason for that is because Stalin and the Soviet regime refused to allow anything like this to be revealed. The writing, again, is really clear. So it's not beautiful writing in the way that, say, Vladimir Nabokov is beautiful writing, but it's incredibly powerful writing, and it's writing with a message. Again, long book, terrific book, totally worthwhile to check it out. The book is Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman. Alrighty, final pick, back to the United States, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Again, another book that you can check out over at Ben's Book Club. Truly a beautiful book. So this is a retelling of the Cain and Abel story over the course of a couple of generations. It's set in California's Salinas Valley, and it follows the intertwined lives of the Trask and the Hamilton families. It's kind of fascinating. John Steinbeck was a very gung-ho FDR Democrat. By the end of his life, he was considered somewhat conservative, specifically because life had changed all around in the United States in the 60s particularly. But East of Eden is all about the power of trying to buck the social influences and genetic influences you might have to do evil. The key theme of the book is personal agency, autonomy, that you have the moral power to overcome the sin that croucheth at your door, as the book of Genesis says. It's really compelling. The plot is great, and Steinbeck, of course, is a tremendous writer. So make sure that you check out East of Eden as well. Okay, so once again, the books that I have recommended in this particular video, and if you have other books that you'd recommend or you want genres of book picks ranging from nonfiction to fiction, drop them in the comments below. Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, Every Man Dies Alone by Hans Fallada, Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman, and finally, East of Eden by John Steinbeck.